Okay, here's another example. This time we've got a couple fractions and we're going to have to watch our signs. We got negatives. So the first step, I guess if I were to spell out how I'm doling out points for this, I'd give a point for you just copying the problem. And that's my attempt to reward you for good habits and punish you at the same time for bad habits. I give a point, and if you don't do it, you don't get the point. So the first step I want from my students is to show that they know that this situation means this number divided by that number, as in this format, 2/5 over -2/3. So that's the first step I want to see, and if you don't show that, if you try to jump ahead, you don't get the point. Now the next step is, one of my other videos about this sort of problem, I talked about this being the moment that I want you to deal with the signs. So we got a negative, and a negative makes a positive, and if you don't remember that, maybe this will jog your memory. Negative and a negative makes a positive, whereas a negative and a positive makes a negative. Positive and a positive make, of course, positive. So a little memory trick that I've shown my students for that. Negative and a negative makes a positive, so we rewrite it down here, 2/5 and 2/3, where this and that make a positive, and we don't have to actually show that. If we wipe it away, it's an understood positive, so that's fine. Now the moment of truth is where we look at the denominator and we use the reciprocal in some giant fraction over here. We take 3/2, and we're multiplying this whole thing, which is really just a 1, which is technically called the multiplicative identity. And it's the fact that it is the multiplicative identity, it is this number times 1, that makes it legal to do this. Because if we multiply this thing by anything other than 1, we actually change its identity, and that wouldn't be good. Because we're trying to find out what this divided by that is, not something else. So this times that is going to give us what is essentially the same thing, but it looks different. And using the reciprocal is going to get rid of, it's going to annihilate the denominator nicely. And to show that, we just multiply across. 2 times 3 is 6, over 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 2, of course, is 6. This, which I do want my students to show, is just a 1, so we can ignore it in the next step. But let me back up, because this moment right here is worth a point, as long as everything is set up correctly. And so is this. This will be worth a point. In the next step, and I want to remind you, I didn't say it a moment ago, but I want to remind you that I want to see this, because that demonstrates the beauty of this. Using the reciprocal will always cause the denominator to turn into some form of 1, which means we can ignore it in the next step. So in the next step, we just bring it over, 6/10, and that's worth a point. I only want to see one thing happen at a time. Now we need to reduce this. So if we divide by 2, the top and the bottom, then we reduce it down to 3/5. And this moment right here is actually 6th grade math. But I still have a few students still struggling to remember that. You just reduce it by the greatest common multiple, divide the top and bottom by the greatest common multiple, and 2 is the largest number that will go into the bottom and the top number. And so this would be the final answer, 3/5, and that is worth a point. So now you can clearly see I'm giving away a lot of points for showing all the steps. And if on the quiz you decided to be a smart guy and just go straight from here to there, that's fine, but you only get 1 point, 2 points. You get 2 points and you're missing a lot of points. I want to see every step, and I've already had a lot of students comment, students who are otherwise lost as far as how this works, they're actually able to see, they understand each step. They really understand what they're doing, and if they understand every step, then they understand the whole thing and they're getting the big picture. So, and it's only because we broke it down into bite-sized chunks that we can all comprehend. So that's how I want to see it, and there you go.